Yo, welcome back, audience. How you doing? Me? Good, as you can see. Fucking bossing around this shit. Up in this hood, up in this neighborhood. Nothing. You know? Yeah, I worked out this week. Twice. Anyway. What's am I talking about? Oh shit, total blooper. Anyway, but let's keep rolling. We're gonna keep rolling. So this Friday, isn't it? Thank God. And for this Friday, I gotta share something awesome, something, everything simplifying. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so I'm gonna start with this distinction, and sometimes whatever people mean by, for example, like they say, love your enemy, you know, or like love is what it's needed to, you know, to help other people and whatnot, and you know all these sayings, and why, if it was that simple, and if it was correct even, then we would have been cool by now, right? But it's not that cool. You gotta fight for having your little bubble of coolness. And that's the truth, whether you like it or not. In this place, in this planet, you gotta fight for your space. This is, you know, it's a given. If you wanna have your domain, if you wanna have your golden throne. So that's the first thing. But how do you do that? How do you approach it in the way that is appropriate? How do you fight with grace? And one primary thing that we ought to do is to distinguish the faculties of the consciousness between the mind and the soul. Again, I'm not saying anything that you need to believe in the soul. I'm saying that you have to observe your own consciousness, and you see like, okay, there are feelings and emotions, okay? The energetic movements, that's your soul, right? No, don't make it more complicated than that. You can experience the depth of your soul, like how many and how intensely your sensations are connected to the soul. And if that is so, every emotion, every feeling that is happening over there takes a certain type of shape, geometry, right? And sometimes you can see that geometry, you can feel that geometry, you can taste that geometry, you know, you can smell that geometry, you can connect your senses to that world. And once you do that, I call this harmonization, you know. And then of course you learn what's happening there, you play with it, like you're discovering instruments. This is mostly like you have to do your own self-discovery. You can share the things that you discover, but it only works if you actually communicate the feeling itself. And that's partially what we do when we meet. Sometimes, like if you fought these goblins, these dragons, and you discover these states of consciousness that is not usually felt by nobody, right? Like you have this gem that nobody has, you know, or maybe very few people have, or maybe they had and went out, you know, that light went out. So, and then you walk around with that feeling, and if somebody kind of opens up to it, then you're like, oh shit, that's like, you know, a feeling that is possible to feel way beyond what I thought, is what I'm trying to say. So that's the soul world. And the soul world is connected to the spirit world, which is, if this is a feeling, then all of this background where all these feelings stem from, the source, the point, divine spark, and all this void, this unbound oneness that is just like unbound, and it means no boundaries. The divine spark is still moving in its own way, but and you can say that's alive boundaries, a boundary that's changing every moment and every second. That's the only this type of boundary can navigate life appropriately. You can only navigate life, which is time, if you are in the infinite. And you're playing between the infinite and time. You gotta know how to play it. And that's this game of theurgy, of playing with time while you're infinite. That's pretty much the game there. And in a way, so people say you select your timeline. And I think it's true. It is very true. When you move to that state, you entered a certain type of timeline, right? And the mages may try to take you out of that timeline. You're fighting for like your ideal timeline, fighting for love, which is how it feels like. It feels like you're falling in love all the time, over and over again. And as a man, you're falling in love with the feminine. The feminine itself, not necessarily a specific person. You see? The feminine energy itself. Which is, by the way, that's exactly what comes through every single person that you meet, right? So you gotta really as a man, you have to get along with the queen. You have to take a certain type of position, and that capacity to appreciate the feminine energy. Not making anything too much of like, how to say, yeah, and you'll know the man of how he treats the feminine energy. If he fights, if he tries to strangle it, if he tries to control it, then nah. If he just like gives up and it's like, fuck this shit, also nah. And that's the infinite part of you can handle that feminine. Because if you go deep down into the feminine, what is it? What is it like? It's the void, and the first reflection of light. Void meaning that mothering, that we talked about this. That stillness and everything silencing, and then whatever reflects the first light. That's the most innocent thing, and so that's innocence, right? That's that innocent love, which is how sometimes see love. In a puppy, in a baby, or even a person who's quite innocent is like. So you find that innocent, nice. But the thing is that innocence is not the. Let's try to find the word. Why don't we have different words for love to mean different things? That's one thing that English language is missing. We have to get over this one umbrella term, love. Yeah, okay, have this umbrella term, but you gotta make some branches out of it, because one love does not mean the other, because it's a completely different state of consciousness. Yeah, you can say, well, it's all kind of love. Very different to very different feeling to have soulful love, or in the mind or in the body. Very different. So we have to name it differently. So anyway, there's this innocence love, there's this energy, right? But the innocence, as valuable as that energy is, which is the most valuable energy, it is not, if it's not protected by that stillness and that divine spark, it cannot do its thing. It is actually what we do everything for, but we have to protect it on one side, so the innocence is there, because out of this innocence it reflects the confidence, and the confidence is then takes the action. That's where the true inspiration is coming from. This is why, like, The innocence energy is powerful. Innocence is what gives you confidence. Understand? And you kind of want to be um, protecting that innocence, and every time it starts flowing confidence, you go into it. Okay, and that's in the essence of what would be the game of your soul. Damn. So what did I want to say about this? I really want to bring it down to like the first principle. I always like to go to the first principle. I sometimes go and explore these other branches of the principles, and then I always go back. You know, and the principles is basically the universal laws of how they always been this way and always will be, and it's very useful to have this as uh, basically the chariot of the gods. Gods being these states of consciousness that you enter that can create whatever, and the chariot being the avatar that you have to build, which is of course the mind. And then it reflects in the body, of course, but the mind is you gotta build that avatar in your mind. You gotta build it. You don't come with it. You understand? This is what I've been also dealing with. Like, what the fuck? Like, doesn't it just come out of the box? Like, I thought that it should come out of the box. And a lot of things do come out of the box, when you started alchemizing energies, and that whatever you've been looking for just starts emanating, and you're like, fuck yeah, that's it, that's me, that's how it's supposed to feel like. And then at that moment you have to start inventing the instrument. It's almost like you got to start inventing and building your how would you say, heads up display, or dashboard. You got to be building your dashboard, right? And that is a type of navigation, and that is a type of capacity to channel energies according to the needed state. That's where the game begins, and you got to make a decision. Like I said, that the decision is quite simple. It's a toddler level decision, but you still have to be able to be proficient at changing state depending of what's required of you, what kind of state you must be entering. And of course, as you live in time, the time will always comes and gives you the shape and says like, hey, this is the shape that you ought to enter, kind of thing, right? And I just realized something. I'm just gonna say something because it just came to me. So we're talking about spirit, soul, mind, body. Spirit, joy. I made a previous video. Joy, soul, enjoyment, mind, pleasure, body, satisfaction. Okay, each one runs. If joy or bliss on the spirit, it runs on what? Or what is the desire? If we use this desire as an umbrella, and then we should find another word for pleasure and use the umbrella term pleasures and then desires. And there are types of energies. There are 4 types of desires, and it's not even enough to say types. It's not types, it's dimensions. It's 4 dimensions of desires, because each one belongs Spirit, soul, mind, body. So everything starts with the spirit, and it's like, what kind of spirit is in the air? It's like, what kind is this? You can find what is the most deepest feeling that you have there, and you can always find it. What is the most this thing that you don't want to look at? Like, where is this motherfucker, right? And you place your attention there, and your full attention, full attention there. Boom. This is a simple. This is where we start, you know. And it starts doing its thing, you know. You're just looking at it. It's like maybe playing hide and seek or whatnot, right? And you start playing with it. Unbounded oneness, connected with this thing that your attention is on. And you play between that and that attention and that awareness and bounded oneness. You see? Because people sometimes say awareness and awareness. It's not correct to say attention and awareness, the foreground and the background. Like, that's what we're trying to do when we're doing alchemy, is the foreground and the background of consciousness is separated, and that feeling that the deepest level is that separation. And you place your attention there, and you keep on melting the attention to the awareness, right? And this is the alchemy. This is you always in a continuous state of resolving the energy that is in the air. And once you start this game, you gotta keep on playing it. But what else you gonna do with your attention? You see? All your attention belongs to awareness. And the trust is that if you're gonna give all your attention to the awareness, which is logos gives itself to eros, then that's where everything's gonna start. It's gonna start from non-dual union. Okay? And that feeling may be, you know, something that you don't want to look at, but look what I'm trying to say here. The moment you look at it, that discomfort goes away. You understand? The trick? That's the courage. There's a definition of courage. There's many other definitions of courage, but this is what I'm trying to use. This is why without the courage, you cannot win this game. Because you cannot keep on, for example, even that unbounded oneness, you can keep on escaping to that, right? But that's not living life. You're not fighting any kind of demons or anything like that. And of course, for the woman, that is probably the best place, the best thing to do. But for the man, you gotta keep on going into the displaying courage. And I really think is that if the man keeps working on this courageous process of his consciousness continuously, it is like breathing. Somebody said it's like breathing. Yeah, you learn breathing. But this type of breath is attention and awareness breath. Okay, and you need that go into the fire as a man. This is where your polarization as a man starts. You understand the importance of this? I don't consider you a man unless this is running through your body, unless that divine spark is sparkling within your body and you have that divine masculine energy. Until there's that, you are not a man. Like, I know it may be like a quite tall order, but that is my definition. The cutoff is there. Yeah, and even myself, I wouldn't have considered, like, if I'm not doing this, and then of course in that moment I would not consider myself a man, right? If I'm trying to, I'm scared of myself basically, and don't want to look there, then okay, what kind of man am I if I'm even scared of myself? So you start there, because guys, like, otherwise I watch sometimes these videos that people post, and they talk about like, oh, do you know this, do you know that the woman is like this, woman is like that, and like all sorts of like really nasty shit about women, which is equally, you can say that about guys, and it's like, did you know that we're not the only ones that are complete fucking evil, women are too, like, that's how dare they, I thought this is our thing, you know it is really like that. It's like, fuck, we're supposed to be the abusers, what the fuck is happening here? But that's what it's like. And then the rest of it is cope. It's so much copium, and it's always like trying to play whack-a-mole, patch this up. It's like, oh, you gotta behave like this, or you gotta behave like this, this is what you gotta do, this is, it's like, my god, you're gonna lose your fucking mind. And then all these advices how to be a man. No fucking man can make you into one. Nobody. Only you can do it. Another man can show you the energy or the way of how to do it. Like, right, like you can, let's say, sword fighting, If you like want to learn sword fighting, you can learn sword fighting, but then once you sword fighting, it's all up to you. No one's gonna sword fight for you, you see. It's you. You are by yourself. You're alone. That's it. And so that's pretty much how the cookie crumbles. But it's lame. It's completely and totally lame, and they all look the same. They're all on so-called TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. They all look fucking bloated. They all age like fast as fuck, they all swollen. The skin does not look thin and strong. It's like a bunch of water retention there. And so they're trying to build a man. It's like, oh, the man needs testosterone, so let me just put the testosterone. The man needs this, so they're trying to build this fucking abomination. It's not a man. It's embarrassing. You just put something like a imitation of a man. It's a scarecrow, and it's fucking creepy. Embarrassing too. Well, that's another thing I want to say about like this, not like being nice to everybody and not being mean kind of thing. Now, the first thing we talked about, heart. That in the heart you gotta meet everybody, any type of energy, and you gotta be able to handle that. Okay? And that's the game. You got to have in your heart, in a complete and appropriate, completely balanced relationship with everybody, even the most evil being, which would be the most difficult thing to do, for you to be completely take the shape that is complete and total antithesis of evil, which means, see what I'm trying to say? This is why unfortunately, without this evil, which is now is contained, on this earth, and they say it's because of its free will, but we have to be very careful again with the free will and definition of what you mean free will. What it actually means is that the automated side or the machine side of consciousness is free to invade the heart. That's what it means. It's like, right? It's not corrected for. Okay, no system is not correcting that for you, and then you end up having be the one to correct for that, and that is your chemical journey, and in your game of life. That's the challenge that we selected, and we went in and we threw the hat over the fence. That's just one of those feelings that you have to overcome sometimes when you're alchemizing. Sometimes you go to the states of consciousness, you're like, oh my god, I can't fucking take this, I'm going to lose my fucking mind, but you do the opposite and you just even more. And not only that you can take it, you're free from it. And so this is like, you got to be free from all the energies, including the most evil energy, free from it in the heart. Then this way you're not leaking energy. That's Hermeticism. The more you are, complementary to every possible energy in the world, the more um, diffracted. Man, look, you can, if if Christ means Antichrist, what happens? You know what happens? Nothing. Balance happens. There's no Antichrist, there's no Christ. It's just awesomeness that actually happens, you see? That's why Antichrist need to meet Christ. That's when everything ends. And of course, when I say this, I mean the Antichrist within you have to be met with the Christ within you. Okay? But that's how you find the Christ. Without the Antichrist, you can't. And it's universal, and it's not me, like, because I'm in this game, you are in this game, we're this earth game. Like, we all have this thing part of our hearts, right? It's not really part of us, you understand this? But as long as we're part of earth, that challenge that we have is part of us. We cannot escape it as long as we're playing this game. And so it makes us, whether we like it or not, which deep down we do like it, is to fulfill all of those challenges that are happening at the soul level, at the spirit level. So that brings me to, because I haven't finished this one, the spirit, soul, mind, and body. There was this joy or bliss at the beginning when there's no separation between the attention and awareness. What I'm saying? You're blissing out a little bit. I'll be back. We'll be right back after these messages. Nah. Okay. So what is this? I said pleasure and desire, and there is dimensions of desire, dimensions of pleasure. So the first pleasure is this joy, the soul, the spirit need. Like we all have that, we all share that, and we got to have that. That's the first thing, we got to have that. Okay, the rest of it is not that important. Honestly, the rest of it is not that important, because frankly, the rest of it is just coping with the situation. It's not really fixing at the root cause. This is. So if you gotta let that shit go, if you gotta stop, playing the whack-a-mole, because then you gotta go and unplug the machine, so there's no whack-a-mole game no more. You gotta let go of the controls to unplug the machine, right? So it's okay. That's one of the things I was thinking, like, I'm neglecting this and neglecting that, but it's like, no, you're not neglecting. That shit wasn't working anyway, or it was just taking too much energy. So go into this and trust this. And I'm learning to trust this, I can see how it works, but it's a different way. It's like saying that what is more important? Like to do something outside and lose the energy there, or have your consciousness calibrated. It's always like you have your consciousness calibrated first. This is the most important thing, and you got to do it first. This is why, like, if you're watching my videos, book the session. Don't delay. Do it. There is no perfect timing for that. It's It's the moment you decide to do it. That's what it is, and it can be, you know, bad. It could be good. It does not matter. You can feel horrible and still do it, and it will. And in fact, then you would learn more of how to alchemize the horrible energy. Okay, so this is where we start. Without this, there's just no game. And so the desire side, I would like to call it passion. I think passion is a good one. It's this burning thing, the agony to be reunited within in your heart. I don't know if everybody has that though. I don't think everybody has that because there's so many non-player characters that they're just non-player characters, and all their light is comes from somebody else, and that's okay. That's normal, right? These non-player characters are just basically depending on the infrastructure and the background of the energy. That's how they behave, right? A non-player character could be very caring, very soulful person because this is the energy that the character is in, but they're not playing the game. You understand? It's like you changed the environment, and okay, that's how they are. Or we can call them like, but just because it's non-player character does not mean it cannot be alive. Yes, it has to live on the borrowed light. It just doesn't have the access to the light directly. It has to access from somebody else. But doesn't mean that they're not, alive. They are. They just depend on somebody, on the energy. And it's just the way it works. So it is really ultimately about completely fulfilling that first desire through passion, which is bliss, joy. Then you go into the soul, and then there is enjoyment, and then there's a type of desire there as well. And you can call it yearning or longing. It's a type of desire, and it wants to play with these energies. The enjoyment is to use that joy and to make it, move through some art, activity, or whatever, like whatever it may be, that enjoyment, that fun is there, necessary. Then we go into the mind, and then we have pleasure, and on the desire side, what could we call it? Desire. Yeah, I suppose. Desire. It's called desire, and the pleasure on the inside. That's in the mind. I guess it's more appropriate to use this way because we already use desire mostly for this particular. When we say desire, we mean this. We don't mean passion. We don't mean yearning. It's this mind desire, and pleasure we usually use for the mind. So it's okay. Let's just put this one there. And body. In the body, there is a satisfaction. Okay, and craving. You can say there is a craving and there is a satisfaction. And so we have this joy, enjoyment, pleasure, satisfaction that runs 4 distinct dimensions of life. I'm saying 4 distinct dimensions of life. So there. But in the mind, guys, in the mind, things are very different. In the mind, you got to build boundaries, and in the mind, boundaries are rigid because you have this spontaneity with automation. And mine is automaton. It's program. It's fun to write one program, write another program. It's super fun. Delete that one, write another one. That's how flexible is the mind. And this is why, if you think that your mind, and every time the program goes away, you feel like you're the one that's dying, then it's impossible for you. You're not going to want to, have this flexible mind. And usually when you don't have that flexible mind, then there are beliefs, that's why the people live and say the same thing over and over again, and they believe in this and this, believe in that and that. Now the problem is with that, it's too rigid. But like, if you can write that program, and which is not you, and you keep on rewriting this program depending on what is necessary, what kind of desires you want to fulfill, these are the programs you keep writing, and that's your mind. You see? And if you don't like a program, you delete it and you write another one. And this is all done through imagination, by the way. And you keep on writing it. This is something that I'm just coming to freshly from the new approach, from the holistic approach. And I can see that I was misusing it a lot. But whatever it's used for, it works, okay? But it's a world of concepts. You understand? And the one concept, you don't need to be attached to any kind of concept. You can create one concept, and then that does not withhold and does not turn out to be working. That's fine. You create another concept. Does this concept of myself holds now? Boom, it holds. All right, cool. So for that particular thing, this program works now. The time you change, and you may say okay, I gotta change the program now, and you build another one for depending on what kind of desire you have. This is why part of the player's game is to build this dashboard first, and then you keep on building the avatar. And you know what I would say the avatar, or chariots of the gods, sometimes they call it. It is this, just as you build the principles of how everything works in the soul, just the same way you build the principles, everything works in the mind. It is just basically how your mind is going to be working, and these principles are already there, but you still gotta make them real. You gotta record them. You gotta grow that tree of knowledge, which is, in this case, is necessary. When tree of knowledge grows the other way, then it's not. But this way, now we came full circle, and now we're playing with the knowledge again, playing with thoughts again. But this time we're like, oh, these are just, you can play with them. You can create one concept of yourself, which is, by the way, every concept is a concept of yourself. And so oh, I want this type of thing. And it's fascinating what it has, and whatever's going on right now with me and this me in the jungle is a concept that I built out of myself, right? But it's not one thing. I want to also have other concepts, and each one has its own identity. And so you just keep on changing these concepts. And one thing I don't like, when people in these spiritual teachings, they always talk about erasing the concepts, but they're not really revealing complete truth. There's nothing to do with that. That it's about first just alchemy. Use another name. It used to be called yoga, but it doesn't mean that anymore. Meditation used to mean that. They don't mean that no more. And so the Holy Spiritual Jesus are not teaching this thing. They're teaching some fucking else, which is the backwards ass way of doing it, which is not real light. It's a false light. Anyway, so now, and so in the mind, you see, you have to have boundaries, and that's what you have to say, fuck those clowns. You understand? In the mind, you have to have boundaries. If you hate them, or there's something there in your heart that you just hate them, okay, then alchemize that. But once you alchemize, then you actually earn the right to create a boundary. But you got to play with those boundaries, because without these boundaries you cannot have self-concept. Boundaries is what makes you, like what kind of culture you are, like how you relate to other people and stuff. Like what's your boundaries? You have to fucking have them. And so if you see somebody that is like, an idiot or whatever, like, or complete disaster in the mind, then you don't trust them, piloting the plane or whatever, right? It's maybe an extreme example, but you just don't. You work with those boundaries. You create these boundaries. You watch what the person is doing, and it's like, definitely not. I'm not subscribing to this. But from this perspective, you can judge, but not. I don't want to use this word judge, because it's a usually connotation is with the emotional judging, and you cannot help but judge at the beginning, and then you can obviously see that thing that is part of you, which was like maybe jealousy, envy, whatever, or pride. You can see this. So don't try to avoid the process of judgment. If it's happening, bring your attention and awareness there. So that's how it stops happening, by looking at it. Okay, not by pretending it that like, oh, we're not supposed to be judgmental, but inside you're like, no, you actually want to be the opposite. Inside you have to be completely free from it. So there's no actual judgment in that sense happening. But then discernment, sometimes people call it, and capacity to split the things that are outdated, let's just say, concepts and nonsense that you can see that they not really leading anywhere. You've got to, right, you set the boundaries. Like even in the laws of the country, you look at it's like, okay, this law is maybe the root cause of all this other nonsense that we have. Like, do we dare to freaking outlaw this law? And then if you start doing that, boom, the law has changed now. One of those laws that is the root cause of everything evil is allowing corporations to function as entities rather than utilities. Like if you change that law, oh my god, then they are utilities. When some of the people and the people will it's like a Web 3.0 is trying to do that. But Web 3.0 is trying to be immune to that bullshit. It's non-corporate, right? The community decided what kind of protocol through which kind of protocol we want to interact. And no one can intervene and change that protocol of the way we interact. No one can put the fucking ads there on addictive, some sort of like, patterns on the screen or whatever they try to fucking do. There's nothing to do with that. And in fact, like to build this system is very simple. It's not that costly. To charge money for it is insane. Or run the ads on it is insane. This is why like the country must realize, oh fuck, we cannot have applications to be corporations. We can't have that. Period. They all have to be open source, community developed, and then as the protocol is being developed and it's run, then that's it. Then that's how it all runs. And then you say, I like to be interacting with one another through this type of protocol. And then it's free market. You can create whatever you want. But people are not going to choose those protocols that are, have ads and shit like that. Or the ads are part of it. So you see, this cuts out all the software tech corporations. Yes, the billions of dollars that they created, no value, but just bad shit. This is why I recommend Mastodon and little by little off ramp from Instagrams, Facebooks, and stuff like that. You're interacting through an algorithm that corrupts your mind, corrupts the relationships, it corrupts your soul. And the only purpose I have not deleted my accounts yet is because I really want to have like a bridge, I don't want to post anything there. Like I'll just post the links perhaps in the Web 3.0, because somehow you still have to introduce people about Web 3 Web 3.0 using Web 2.0 apps kind of thing, right? If you know a better way, let me know. But that's what's up. Now, but the country law must be accepting this. The law of the country must say that this is part of our national system now. These decentralized applications are now accepted, just like accepting Bitcoin as a centralized application. You're accepting all these other ones. Like, okay, every single citizen has the right to access on decentralized application. You don't outlaw immediately like all these corporate applications. You let them run in parallel, but you inform all your citizens that these are approved apps of the country. This is how we interact with each other. These are the protocols we interact, right? So Mastodon would be one of them. Like, it would be replacing Instagram and Facebook mostly. And I suppose you can improve and can be Twitter too, and then you could have everything in one, you know. And then so all the people will say like, okay, if you don't want ads, if you don't want addictive content, you don't want corporations playing with your mind, and you want every single account to be a person, or the people behind it running it, then with their own personal desires and wishes and stuff like that, then yeah, connect through that. That should be available. Also, to every citizen, should the free operating software should be available too. Like, the government could take one version of or branch of Linux and say this, every computer that's produced should have this as a basis. You can install anything else you want, right? Or at least like you should have the computers that are being sold with a functional Linux system, that you don't have to pay membership, you don't have to pay for this operating software. So citizens deserve the software that is not hijacked by corporations, because now the other ones are being hijacked. It's not your software, but it becomes a corporate software, and it just tries to control you and give you information that you don't want. Doesn't let you give you freedom to opt out from these things, and it's just like now it has to be, it's part of it. Like, you have to be bombarded with that. It's like, well, I don't want it. Well, then you can't use Windows, Okay, fine, but then every citizen should have access to the one version of Linux where there's that harassment does not exist. Corporates do not act as entities, and there's no corporate at all. It's just a utility approved by the government. I would like to see that. Okay, and it should be part of the government too. Like, the government should interact through these decentralized systems and non-corporate. Yes, it would cut out a lot of dead weight, of course, but that weight was dead, and it's just the poison, you see. So that's little by little you have to start change the laws. So anyway, so that's the concept of yourself. Includes the laws that you live under, by the way. And I know people like live this life and they say like, well, but this poor little me, I cannot control the infrastructure. Yeah, you can control the infrastructure. You should control the infrastructure first. That is basically what kind of monopoly game you're playing. If it's rigged, why would you even bother playing? You say, well, I'm just going to be playing anyway. I'm just a poor little player. I cannot change the rules of the monopoly. Yeah, you can. The first thing that you got to do is do that, actually. So that's my approach now. Now I'm trying to live off the grid, so to speak, which I can have to learn how to live by these principles. How do you live off the grid? Then, if I go back into society and I choose the state, I choose the city, I choose all of that, I immediately become responsible of everything that is happening there. What kind of laws are there? Because if I'm running business there, and if I run a decent business there, I don't want any of these corrupt laws cramping my style. So laws must change. That's one of the things that must change. And what we accepted before as normal, it becomes barbarian. Like a software corporation is a barbaric idea. Everybody's going to see that. It's like, oh my god, this is not creating any kind of value, and it was all about the control, and it was all open source anyway. And the corporation took that open source license, used that law that you could do that, and it just sold nothing over and over and over again. No ingenuity, no wisdom, and it produces a billionaire like Bill Gates. A retard that is intelligence retard, but very intellectual person. Use the law that is there and play the game of the law. But anybody with conscience would see like, oh, this is not fair. This because you don't even write the software. This is what Google does. Everything is open source. So developers, community develop everything, and then they just take it and commercialize it, and through the control, outcompete like the other version that is free. You see, it's a scam. It's the biggest software tech scam that was backed up by the illegitimate law. Corporate's supposed to be worried about tangible hardware systems, not software. That's supposed to belong to communities and people. Software, that's where it belongs. Hardware, sure. That's where most of the software companies is bullshit. Is not necessary. Literally, I'm saying it's not necessary. Like if you remove all of that and you replace it with the open source and you start giving that to people and reward the developers there, because they're not even rewarded right now. They most of the time they just do it because of the justice, because there's something that the society that is holistic and healthy supposed to exist. So they create these apps out of this, you know. But they're supposed to get paid by all the people that are, you know, using, not the corporation, but the person who's been participating in this community, you know. And it should be paid by the people in the form of donation. But it has to be so popular that the person who wrote the code, the author or multiple authors, supposed to be like have a piggy bank where the people using it keep on putting it. But it's completely voluntary. And when everybody is just like using this app and getting the value out of this, they're going to put in that piggy bank, and that's how these developers are going to be rewarded directly. That's part of the society. That should be part of the society. So then they would love to build cool shit that is available for themselves and other people to use for free as a part of way of interacting through the digital world, the protocol through which you interact, for free and being rewarded directly. And that there's going to be too much money when people are when you create this type of system, you know, no forced pay. It's like a human right in a civilized society to have an adequate protocol to communicate with one person to another, do whatever, do business, communicate, socialize. It has to be this adequate protocol. It's a human right. Operating systems. When we do this, we clean the house big time. Okay, or a big branch of bullshit has been cut off. Then we look deeper. So anyway, I'm just trying to share that change that needs to be done. And of course, how it is done through the mind. Keep putting the energy in this concept because it's a concept. Concept being is like, I live in a society where the law functions like that, and you keep on giving this mana juice to your imagination, imagining that, and also participating that and seeing what kind of actions you can take to make that happen. To add a little bit more of a craft side, I think it's important. At least one thing. You can visualize what kind of society you want to live in, but at least do one thing tangibly that moved closer to that concept, and perhaps laws and which, by the way, constitution. This is supposed to be part of constitution, not letting the utilities act as entities. That's supposed to be written in the constitution. And so constitution is important because it's the principles by which you live by, and then it is supposed to act like a protectorate against the corrupt laws. You understand? Universal principle, because this is the corruption of the universal principle. If you look deep down, you'll see that it is a corruption within the game of the mind. It's a corrupt structure. And what is it corrupting? Exchange of value. It is corrupting the exchange of value. Also, it is because it's not providing you. Anyway, I don't want to expand it on this, but if you look deep down, you'll see that structure of how that concept, how that belief, which the law is essentially the cultural belief of a country, is right, and we're supposed to be making sure of that first. Don't you see what I'm trying to say? Go straight to the root, because if the root's still allowed to grow some sort of weed, then you're going to keep on fighting with that. You go straight to the root, you go straight to the constitution, and you make sure that you outlaw all the illegitimate laws. It's like reprogramming the country, the state. What is the state anyway? The state is collective beliefs, right? Concept. Now, we're not supposed to call the belief anymore, because it's only belief if it's stemming from fear. But the concept is there, because before you had to believe in this concept, give your dark energy for this to be true. Now you can create the concept and see if it works. To identify with that concept, but you got to play it. You see, this is why the difference between somebody who has a belief and somebody who is fighting for the concept. You're not attached to this concept, but it's important for it to be installed in the programming of the mind. You see, why is it important to be installed? Because that would prevent the corruption and prevent from the beliefs, which are corrupt concepts, to be existing. Yes, there might be lesser evils that thing appears to exist. The lesser evil appears to exist. But you want to be in a process of keep on shrinking that, okay? And you start from the root. And this is why, in U.S. system, they start realizing when people are with the intelligence and the real heart going to the politics, and they really actually want to create just society, they start realizing, oh my God, the system is corrupt. How do we got to reinvent the system? Got to change the system, how it all works and everything. It's all built on manipulation and facilitating egos, not facilitating souls. So you change it, change the way you interact. That needs to be changed. You change the system and the way the people interact, which sometimes you may not even realize of how the way the system is structured is to facilitate the ego rather than rather than the soul. This is why, like, sometimes when you somebody with the soul and trying to be put through the system, you start feeling it's like, nah, nah, you know, it's like trying to bring the ego out in me, because if I don't have ego, then I cannot belong to this club, and so it's like a demon's club, which, by the way, an entity is not a being. An entity is a machine pretending to be a being, and it has no authority. It has no need even to be addressed or talked to, just like you don't talk with the programming of your computer. What do you do with it? You control it. Control it, delete it, don't like it, uninstall it, install. That's what you do. You don't say to the software, on your computer, it says like, what the fuck are you doing? I didn't ask you for this. Like, why you show me this ad? You uninstall it and install another one. That's the way you treat the people who function on that entity level. And you got to understand that through the body, sometimes the entity may be coming through, and sometimes the being could be the same body, right? Sometimes some being coming through to the body, and only under certain conditions the entity comes out. It's dormant, right? It's not gonna really look that deep enough, so it comes out. Damn, I'm ranting. And it's universal, it may come out through me if I'm not alchemizing, if I'm not standing on my throne, then it has an opportunity. But if I am, then there's no way that energy can come out. It's almost already 1 hour. Damn. Okay. That energy cannot come out. I don't even know how to call this video. It's a bit of a jumble cluster. But that's what happened today. You synthesize. I'm just touching these universal truths and what is necessary to do, and not negating the need for automation and programming. At the same time, recognizing that it cannot super compensate the soul, because it has to be done through the other way, for example, because that feeling of passion, that feeling of yearning in the soul, if you try to fulfill it through the mind, then you go very degrading, Luciferian way, automated. But if you go the other way, you come out back into the mind again, but it's like, oh, now I can just play with the mind, where before the mind was playing with me. And so why am I saying this? Because it's important for you to still create the self-concept. I know that in the spirituality usually teach like, no, don't worry about it anymore. Now that you discover this peaceful bliss, just swim in it, and that's it. No, you have to go back in the game now that you can actually win it, right? So you go back in the game. This is why, I don't know, like like for example, Krishnamurti was talking about the corruption, talking about how people are destroying the world, and sometimes crying about it. But did he do anything about it? Actually, did he change something in about the system? You have to, especially when this type of position where you can change some sort of concept. I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe it's something that I'm not aware of. But there's something that has to be changed there. On the conceptual level. You don't leave this to just like, oh, this, I've discovered this philosopher's stone. Now I'm looking at other people and saying, hey, why you guys are, cannot do what I did? You know, on one part of it is correct. You got to do that. On one part, you got to communicate that. Like, look, this is how you have to actually start living life. But on the other side, you got to change the environment, the infrastructure that they live in, how they live. It's important as well because they won't change if you don't do that. That's why I don't agree with just this vertical dimension, and say that like I'm compensating for the lack of vertical dimension, and then people need to figure out a better way of living themselves, kind of thing, No, I don't know. Like, I don't like that. Like, you figure out you are in a position to change the infrastructure. Freaking change the infrastructure. At least this is what I've asked of myself. Because to me, it's not enough to just, no longer suffer. I want to go back into this and create all these concepts that are right. That gives me the right to create that concept and know that it is right because it stems directly from the source and directly from the intelligence. And I have no problem of creating another one if that was not right. So there's like this very fast adaptation to the world. But at the same time, as long as you're living on Earth, you will have these universal principles and you need to have them part of you and functioning according to those principles. That's super important. You have to function on that. And then when the principles are in place and they're not broken, then you can keep on changing the rules, changing the preferences. Now I want this. Now I want this. Imagine this. Imagine that. And it's necessary because when you approach it like that, when you take the roots out, you still have some of these concepts are floating around. They're dead. They're not connected to anything. Nothing supports them. They don't have resistance. Like if you want to go and change that law, just go and change it. There's no energy there to resist. Or maybe they will act like they are resisting it, but they will change it. Maybe there will be the pretentiousness. Of course, thought forms and entities pretend that they're strong and powerful, but then if you push on it, it's like there's nothing there anymore. Okay, got it. Which means this concept of what I'm imagining is becoming real. But you got to fight in a silver level as well. That's one thing I have to say. Because I thought that, again, that was the reason I thought that is because somebody else told me, and then I'm discovering like, well, that's not true at all. From the belief to pretend, sometimes I say, but or from the belief to the concept game. But you participate in that, in that world, and you create these concepts that are based on truth. They may be attacked. You protect them, and you protect them, and you protect them with the truth, and they're becoming real. Okay? And by the way, there's no conscious being that is trying to prevent you from doing that. Because sometimes you may say, oh, they're controlling us, or like, oh, there's a deep state. It's like, what poor little me, what can I do? You have to understand that there's no one alive there that is doing it. No one has the intention, even the malicious intention, to cramp your style. Yet it is there because you're letting it to be there as a program. You understand? When you realize it's like, oh fuck, there's nobody there that is opposing, justice. There's no actual, it may seem like, oh, there's a person saying like, oh, no, because the entity is talking through it, which is a program. You ignore that motherfucker. Like, it means nothing. You cut the source, the energy source with that program, which means that you're no longer um, heated by it. You already found the truth about it, and the program says like, no, but this way it's supposed to be. You say no, this is how it's supposed to be, and they may argue, and it's just like, nope, this doesn't change the fact this is how it's supposed to be, and you continue, and that's it, and that's how it is. The authority that is given to you comes directly from the source. And if we realize that, then that's, like these so-called evil billionaires, we're supposed to hang out with them. Not to just like that people who were corrupting them, right? Like the Antichrist, they were trying to corrupt them, like the Epstein and all these other whatever, organizations. They tried to corrupt the quote-unquote powerful. Which again, if you look at this, you see that there's no one there. These are entities. These are not real beings. So when you look at it this way, you are not hesitant to reprogram the program and feel nothing about it. And you also let go of this idea that's like, how can somebody be so cruel and be conscious? Like, no, nothing. It's automated. It's just a program. You gotta understand, there's nobody alive there. They pretend really good that they're alive, that that they someone decent or whatever. No, it's just a program. And in fact, that no one can prevent you from rewriting that program. It's like, again, you have you can pull out that plug out of the wall and the game is done and the program's not running, but the system can say, do not plug this out of the wall, because you need me or whatever. You just, that's it. What are you gonna say? Like, no, I don't need you. You've been doing this all this time, and yeah, it was programmed. That's why it was capable to do all this evil shit, because it was not conscious, not alive. So it's just a program. And so we're playing this game against the program to challenge ourselves, and that's the truth. And that's the only enemy that we have. Another thing that was like, for example, Jesus apparently said like, love your enemy. I don't think he did say that. I think he was trying to point at that suffering. Because you love your suffering, perhaps, okay, this is better. It's still not good, because in English does not mean that. It does still not mean to put your attention and your care on that negative feeling inside of you. That's what he actually wanted to say, to love it, right? But translated, of course, from God knows to English, and that's what it says. No, that's not what he meant completely. And how do I know that's not what he meant? Because all these principles are completely available for everybody when you're in that state of consciousness. They very clearly can be seen. So no, we not said that. He also did not say that blessed are the poor. He did not say that. Again, he meant blessed, which is bliss, which is this joy that we're talking about. And it was not poor, but the meaning was nothing. The meaning, the ones that are surrendered to the source. That's what he meant. Nothing to do with wealth, nothing to do with that at all, completely. You should be very rich and have as much power as possible if you're playing this type of game through alchemy. And if you don't, then you're going to be functioning through the entities, and then we're coming after them. We're uninstalling them en masse. The more we realize of how the game works. And that's it. And that's it for now. That's how we play the game. All right, guys. Peace, and I'll see you in the next one.